Hello, everybody.
Hello.
I'm Max Shanley. I'm one of the managers here at Green Apple Books on the Park. Thank you for joining us tonight with our event for Jason Yamas and Maya Jeffra celebrating Tweakerworld. Woo! A couple upcoming event announcements. On Friday, we will be hosting Monica Yoon with Solna Sharif. A bunch more really cool stuff coming in April. Forrest Gander and Katie Holden, Yuri Herrera, Charlie Jane Anders. You can go to our website for full details on upcoming events. We have books for sale at the front of the store. Please buy books. Please buy books from us. It supports the authors, it supports us, and supporting authors and bookstores is cool. If you need a suggestion for a book, I can think of at least one that you can walk out of here with this evening. If you share any photos of tonight on Instagram or Twitter, please do tag us at Books on the Park. We would love to share them. Brief run of show. Jason and Maya are going to have a conversation between the two of them, and then we'll hear a brief reading from Jason, and then we'll open it up to audience questions. And then there will be just a meet and greet signing if you want to get your book signed at the back desk over there.
Yeah, or your been requested.
Or your tips. Without any further delay, Maya Jeffra is the author of 4 books, including The Violence Almanac and most recently American Gospel. Maya's work can be seen in Story Quarterly, Prairie Schooner, The North American Review, Barrel House, Diagram, Jubilat, and many others. Maya is co-founder of Whiting Award-winning queer and transliterary collaborative Foglifter Press, and teaches writing and decolonial studies at Sonoma State University. Please welcome Maya Jeffra. And last but certainly not least, Jason Yamas is a queer fiction and nonfiction writer making his prose debut as author of Tweakerworld, a memoir from Unnamed Press this year. Prior to his foray into literature, he produced documentary and narrative films such as Jonathan Cowett's Walk Away Renee, and Stephen Winter's Jason and Shirley, as well as several charity arts and music projects in Detroit. He's currently writing his first novel and pursuing acting training at the Sanford Meisner Center. With the publication of Tweakerworld, he intends to shine a bright light on the worsening epidemic of crystal meth in the LGBTQ+ community. Jason's book Tweakerworld is the reason we're here tonight. Please join me in welcoming Jason Yamas.
Thank you for coming. Yeah, it's not that. No, okay. I was told these were very sensitive. They don't seem that sensitive.
Just no P alliterations.
Yeah, no big plosives. I'll get it closer. Anyway, thank you for coming. So nice to see so many of you that I know from so many different areas of life. Thank you for coming out, and thank you for watching, if you're watching there.
Well, I don't know any of you, so hi. Maybe we'll get to know each other later. I guess we should jump right into this because I'm eager to listen to Jason read this baby, to actually hear it out loud. I obviously did read it, hopefully, and woo, it's a lot. It's a lot. There's obviously a lot of intrigue around just drug use and the queer community in San Francisco, but also the relationship between the two. And I'm hoping that we're going to touch on that a little bit because it seems to be a really important aspect of the book. And particularly, I mean, it was in your bio. So, but first, the very first thing I want to ask, I'm going to try not to give any spoiler alerts. We obviously know the hero survives, but there's a lot in there that I don't want to give away, mainly because you're going to buy the book and read it after this Q&A. But you are a filmmaker, and in the story, you're even researching, right? That was one of your your spiels, was you were researching for a film. Why did this wind up being a memoir instead of a film?
Oh, that's an easy answer. I was unable to make it into a film because I had been producing films in LA and New York, and any of those connections that I had made to anybody that could put me in front of a financier, I had gone out the window after I abandoned my entire life and got a reputation as a crystal meth addict, so when I finished this world, when I left this period in my life, I still, even though, me saying I'm making a film while I was there, which people who have reached out to me since then were like, yeah, I remember you kept saying that. We'd be in the middle of fucking. You'd be like, this is going to be a movie one day. And I mean, yes, it was two things. It was me trying desperately to hold on to an identity that I had quickly abandoned, and trying to be something of importance, something of value, something I could hold on to that could give me a glimmer of hope for the other side. It was also just justifying. If I was doing research, then the drug use wasn't as bad. If I was doing research, then the dangers of being shot at or chased or stolen from was just plot instead of trauma. So it's really a dissociation is really what it was in the moment. How did it become a memoir? So I just wanted to address that before because it was two things while I was there. But on the other side of it, as finally a sober person, I still wanted to get the story out there. A movie suddenly seemed like it was an impossibility because too much happened. I mean, when you're awake most hours of the day, most hours of the week, and you're going at such a pace, and you're meeting a million people, and you're doing all kinds of crazy things that I do in here, you develops. Well, the first thing I did when I got out was I wrote down everybody's name who I had met, and there was 134 names I could remember. So I at least had 134 characters, and I knew that a movie was going to be impossible. I had to make a TV show. So my first question was like, well, who do we know at Netflix? But I didn't know anybody at Netflix because I had fucked off my life as a result of being a degenerate drug addict. So you look at what TV shows are out there, and a lot of them are adapted from books. So I just decided, okay, well, I can do that, and it's getting an agent as an author. I was told is a lot easier than getting an agent as a screenwriter. So I took a very, very, very long, surreptitious route to finding my way into making a TV show. But I wrote a book so I could make a TV show. What I learned while writing a book is that I really love writing books, and I'm going to keep doing that too, as I try to make it into a TV show as well.
I can relate to that.
You can.
Well, okay, you mentioned you had a list of 134 characters.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the challenges. This is a craft question, really. One of the challenges to writing memoir is trying to capture the totality of experience without actually putting every single thing down. How did you pair that 134 numbered cast of characters to the foregrounded, I don't know, maybe 10? That really kind of populate the book.
It was a process. Those who had either moved the plot along, those who were integral in me getting to the next stage of my addiction or my journey, those who held a special place in my heart, those, and I had to start using people that were more complex in real life in simple ways, like the Blaine character, for example, is somebody who I knew for a long time and served a lot of purposes in my life, but I believe I use the character to be an angel on my shoulder. I think that the person it's based on disagrees with me, but we can debate that another time. So it was a lot of that at first, and anybody that I was especially drawn to, and then then just big chunks had to be cut. If there was whole chapters that just couldn't make its way in because it felt like if I had a chapter that had a similar structure to something that had already happened, because that's the thing about this world, is the same shit just keeps happening over and over again, just with different people. So everybody's like, there's people who have also gotten to the other side in the audience, so that knew me then, and they're nodding for those of you who cannot see them. So yeah, it was a winnowing down for sure, and then toward the end I just had to start combining characters. I knew a bunch of different people that did fraud, and I had to combine them into three different people, combine them into one. And yeah, it became a lot of compositing toward the end.
Mm-hmm. Mm. All right.
You can relate to that too?
A little bit, of course. I published a memoir as well. Well, another challenge in memoir related to representation of reality is that you're writing real characters. I mean, you're writing about real characters. So how was that experience, trying to be accurate? And then kind of piggybacked on that, did you feel like you had to protect anyone in the writing?
At first, yes, and then I let go of that as best I could. If the people I felt like I had to protect the most were my family members, and picking, especially my dad. My dad as a character, because I have such a complicated relationship with him anyways, and I didn't want him to feel like he had really let me down, because I didn't want him to feel like he was to blame for it all, or he had done anything too purposefully cruel or closed-minded. He just didn't get who I was for many years, and that hurt in a different way that created some sort of queer shame in my life. And and so yeah, I at first did feel like I needed to protect people, and it wasn't serving the story. I was nervous what some people would think about my depiction of them. And what was interesting was in January, I actually came back to San Francisco and visited with a bunch of folks, some who are still active in that world, active as users, active as criminals, and I read them excerpts. And for the most part, I got positive feedback, like, that's a bit of a stretch. You elaborated in ways that you hyperbolized here and there, so I got a little bit of like friendly pushback. One person when it came out commented that I do the same voice for them as I do for my mom, which I thought was really funny. I was like, well, you're both really lovely characters. That's fine. I did. I really wanted people's essences to be there as best as I could. One of my early dealers, who's named Xander in the book, I found to be a very funny person, and I really wanted that to come through. So yeah, I had to pick and choose portions of people's personalities to highlight. The ones that resonated with me. But people are so complex, and you can't tell everybody's story. You can't show every shade of a personality.
Xander was particularly funny in the book.
I'm glad.
Yeah, you'll find that to be a highlight.
Xander, the character, went to prison and is on house arrest right now, and we just began communicating again this past week, and is finishing the remainder of his sentence with his mother on house arrest, and we can text now. And I was texting him that I was nervous about this event, and he was like, "You're gonna do great, just remember that's not your world anymore." And it's just so funny because he felt like a mentor figure when I first entered this world, and here we have this seemingly an echo of that relationship that we're just beginning to explore now as friends on the other side of it. So yeah, it's funny. We had a 45-minute conversation the other day. I was like, you're just as funny and witty as I remember. I'm so glad I wrote you accurately. Yes, you're still that person.
Well, okay, so obviously you're trying to get at verisimilitude. You're trying to get at accuracy in a memoir, because you want to service the people who populated your life. But then there's always the people that see it differently, right? There's no one truth, as they say. So I want to ask, on the opposite end, where do you feel you took the most liberties with the story?
So I had to, usually like the high drama moments, the most dangerous moments, I had to combine a bunch of them into characters. So the most shocking things, having my window shot out, being in a car chase, things like that happened with more sketchy figures that were in my life for very brief periods and then were gone. So they weren't characters in the book. But the events happened to me, and I wanted that level, that degree of danger and risk to be represented. So I had to put it into scenes with people who probably were just not that violent. So I would hate for those people to think that you're lying about me. I'm utilizing what we were doing and what I was doing over here and combining it. So yeah, you have to take liberties to tell a full story, and not everybody's truth is going to be represented, even my own. There's no fucking way that I was able to let anybody know with words, no matter what, how great the prose could be, what it actually felt like to hear things the way. At one point I say it's as if everything was run through a demonic filter, and as if the sounds were made to make me feel petrified at all moments. And it's just like there are these sensory things that happen during psychosis, which is where the latter third of the book takes place, that there's no way of understanding how intense and how wild it feels to live like you're living inside of a movie, and a horror movie at that, and that you think that literally everybody is working against you, and to genuinely feel that degree of fear, there's no words that can ever convey that sensory sensation.
Yeah, and the that last third of the book that Jason refers to is, kind of the rock bottom moment. And I'm really curious about that. How was the experience writing that, knowing full well that you couldn't trust your own perceptions? I just tried to write as accurately as what I remembered seeing, and not to judge it, and not to try to start making sense of it. My editor actually got into like, well, can't for the audience purposes, or the reader's purposes, can't you say here, this can't possibly be true, but I still believe it, like sentences like that, so they would know that I'm wavering between the two. And I chose to at times, but not as much as they wanted me to put it in there, because I just wanted the reader to see and what I was seeing, no matter whether there was logic or anything to suss out. I'm trying also not to give it away too much, but it was difficult. It was really difficult, but the experience of writing it, it sent me back into some paranoia for a few months when I was actually doing those first drafts. I've also had that experience when I'm back in San Francisco too. I was driving in here in January. I'm just like, somebody's following me right now. I don't know who, but they are following me, and I genuinely believe that. You hear people having acid flashbacks. This was something like that. There's a lot of people following each other here, but it's really because they just want to fuck you. I think we can all attest to that. Oh, sorry for the parents at home.
It's okay, with San Francisco.
It's kind of true. The cruising is really, it's epic and aggressive.
I'm watching it happen in the back of the bookstore right now.
And I appreciate that. Sometimes you're thirsty, you know? Well, let's switch it up. I don't want to give away, but my favorite section of the book is definitely the last third. And it's some of your strongest writing that happens in that section as well. So we'll pull out of the book.
Okay.
You obviously have gone through rehab. You have, you kind of worked through this experience live in the past 5 years. 6, okay. So you learned a lot in that path. What did you learn from writing about that experience that you didn't learn during rehab? What's the new learning that happened?
I knew I should have had you send me this. I said, don't send me the questions. I want to answer them organically, and then I always regret it. What did I learned that trauma, when you can reconceptualize it as a story, and find humor in it and levity in it, that trauma can be transported. You really can alleviate the pain that's associated with it. You're still going to have the intensity, but that pain that bogs you down, that creeps into your nightmares, especially for the first year before I started writing, it was just nightmare after nightmare, revisiting it all, but with the volume turned up, 100 decibels. It was really haunting the first year, but getting it out, and also, there's a you make sense. You do start to make sense of it. I mean, there's still things that I cannot make sense of that I know I saw, and it doesn't make sense that I saw them, but I know I did. And I can't say that they weren't real to me. But a lot of other things, you do start to figure it out. You're like, oh, that's probably what was going on here. And at one point, the character who is called Jonas, I believe is the name, says to me, he's a minor, he became a minor character, says to me, what the best part of your movie will be? And I'm like, what's that? He's like, when you realize that you were your own worst enemy the whole time. And it was true. I mean, when you're doing illegal shit and you're not willing to suffer the consequences of it, which I really wasn't. Was not. People kept saying, you do the crime, you got to be ready to do the time. I was not ready. There was no way I was going to call my mother from prison. There was no way I was going to spend it. Obviously, there was every way that could have happened. But just my inability to fathom that, and yet also doing these things that were just begging that future, put me in an impossible position. And yeah, it just explodes. It explodes your imagination. And, I was a storyteller to begin with. So my unconscious mind is creating all kinds of story that's not there, and creating all kinds of enemies that and misperceiving people's behaviors as nefarious when it was probably just weird and sketchy, I mean, I know I love seeing the people nod. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, some people have been in psychosis here, so they get it. Yeah.
All right. I'm just going to ask him one more question. So you do a little reading, and we can get questions from you all. I'm just dying to know. There's a lot of shit goes down in this book, and it seems like a lot of the actions are real. No matter how you fabulize kind of the way the characterization around them is. Do you feel any sense, this is a salacious question really, do you feel any sense of threat from any of these previous individuals? I mean, we're talking, I don't want to give anything away, but we're talking cartel. We're talking,
Yeah.
we're talking characters that have serious danger within them.
No, I don't. I think I was in my mind and in this book and in an NBC article that came out. They called me a meth lord. I mean, the truth of the matter is, I was a blip on the map. There's been probably 85 people just as big or as narcissistic and as risky and as messy as I was, that have done the same thing and taken over and probably ended up in prison or in rehab or dead or sober or all the options that we have. So no, I don't. When it comes down to if you read the book, okay, I'm trying not to give away things because you're really focused on that, and I appreciate that. There's reasons at the end to think that the Mexican, my aunt messaged me. Oh, actually, it just says it in the NBC article, so I can say it. Okay. My aunt messaged me and was like, my understanding is that the Mexican cartel doesn't forgive anything, so it sounds like you owed them money, so you better watch out. And the truth of the matter is, I didn't really owe them money. I had paid them back in other. It's complicated. Read the book. I'm not worried, but I'm not worried about that. And I'm mostly not worried about any legal issues. But it's not impossible either. I'm confessing to it. I don't know. Maybe I imagined every police and Fed and agent and all the things that are in the book. Maybe I imagined them all, but maybe I didn't. Maybe they did build a case, and maybe there is somebody with an axe to grind that wants to draw me up on charges for these things. In the state of California, though, the governor did pass legislation last year that made it so that it started because of rap artists confessing to crimes in their raps, that artistic expression is now protected on state charges. So, but yeah, there's in the back of my mind the idea of some DEA agent with an axe to grind. I don't think they care, probably. Probably I was way more important in my head than in actuality. Let's hope.
I'm going to piggyback on that, though. Sorry I lied. Just one more question.
Mm-hmm.
What are you most concerned about?
Honestly, that people think I have the answers. So many people reach out to me. Happened this afternoon. Happens every day now. Can you talk to my friend who's a meth addict? Can you talk to my friend who's just getting out of rehab? Can you give me advice? All kinds of people who've and I. This one gets me. There's folks who've lost their children to this disease, this specific disease, who I spoke to recently, and I did give as much time as I could and energy as I could to those folks, because my heart really goes out to them. But I'm nervous that people are going to believe that I have some sort of wisdom, and all I have is my own personal experience to speak from. I'm not a recovery expert. I wouldn't give advice in that way. I smoke weed. To be honest, I started just smoking weed. I'm not an example for recovery. So yeah, I don't have the answers. I have this story. I have the hope that people read this and at least know what the fuck this world is, so you can make a better decision when somebody asks you if you want to party, or at least make it a more informed decision, because I'm not even going to judge the decisions that those folks are making. But yeah, I don't have the answers to it, and I'm not going to be able to help a lot of people that ask me for that help. So that worries me a bit, especially as it becomes more public. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you do have that story, you said.
I do have that.
Oh no. Shall I read from it?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Transitions. Okay. I also have not read this chapter. The chapter I read, all the other events, I have read several times. I've not read this since I did the audiobook, so if I fuck it up, pardon me. How long is this fucking thing? No, it's not that bad. I vacillate over taking a light BDO dose before entering Mom's birthday celebration, but decide against it. Her entire Bay Area trip has been coated with my duplicity. She deserves this one iota of authentic me. My pact with Blaine to have quit and detoxed by Mom's birthday, in retrospect, was a ruse to get him closer to me. It fizzled once my affections transferred to Jack. The evening is picturesque. Streamers and balloons affixed to the mauve crown molding at her Airbnb. Board games played on the coffee table as we all sit on the floor, cushioned by throw pillows. The whole gang is here for her big 55th. Johnny, Christopher, and 2 gray-haired granola women from Colorado, who Mom met at her energy healing school a decade ago, and appear to own every t-shirt from the Life is Good store. My mom called me and was like, "You gotta take that out. They're not gray-haired granolas." And I was like, "Mom, just let me have my goddamn poetic license." That's what she wants me to change. Unbelievable. Mom asks me to cook. A replay of simpler times living under one roof, before she had to remind me what hugging entails. I marinate chicken thighs in lemon, soy sauce, vinegar, and garlic with a light coating of curry powder. Food is unrivaled in its ability to transform one back to kinder times. Our family notoriously fixates on food as the centerpiece of discussion and entertainment. How it's prepped, what temperature is optimal, what clashes with what, who prepares it best, how each dish compares with the last time it was made, how much every ingredient cost. I still haven't spoken to Dad since picking that pipe back up after leaving rehab 6 months ago, but his presence looms large with this tenderly prepared home-cooked meal. After a round of Happy Birthday, which I lip-sync because I hate the damn song, and some strawberry shortcake, Mom asks how I'm faring in sobriety and, of course, where I'm resting my head. I've mostly been staying with my best customer, Big Mama, but I can't say that, so I concoct a whopper tale wherein Big Mama was my ride passenger 3 days in a row before finally inviting me to come live with him. Mom's a sucker for kismet. San Francisco's gay community is a close-knit group, I assure her. We all know one another. I'm omitting the word tweaker between gay and community. Christopher and I inadvertently both gift her the new Bonnie Raitt album on CD. The only present I needed, she says, was the company of my 2 sons. I can't wait for her to leave, yet I wish she never would. Just remember what's coming up, sorry. I'm so sorry. At the end, I was like, this won't piss off anybody, this chapter. I forgot. I really tried to curate it to not, ruffle any feathers in the audience. At the end of the night, she walks me to my car, probing me on Christopher's well-being. Is he happy? She asks once the 2 of us are alone in the driveway. He's so damn codependent, always ignoring himself to provide for her. I open my car door with an abrupt energy implying urgency. He's an adult, I argue. What can you do? He's my son, she retorts. There's nothing I wouldn't do to make sure he's okay. I blurt out, they keep plastic bins of dirty dishes in their closet. It's a manifestation of chaos within, she sighs. Not everyone's OCD like you. See? She points to the bright orange dust rag that's covering my meth bubbler in the inside the car door. She hasn't reached for the rag, yet I leap and push her backward. Her head tilts in confusion, the way a dog reacts. What is that? She prods. Nothing, I yelp, but it's too late. I snatch the rag and the bubbler it's concealing, then hold them higher than she can reach. She springs toward it. I pull the rag close to her face with one hand, while the other hand hides the bubbler behind my back. Mom glowers. I swing my torso and lob it into the unlit street, the identical response I had to Kurt finding me months ago, as if throwing the evidence might make the moment disappear. Oh, these moments where I'm meant to be there for a loved one, and instead the addiction betrays them. Shattering glass echoes off a nearby rooftop. Mom's innate gleam transmutes to the expression one makes when one realizes the killer's inside the house. She presses her nose smack against mine. "What was that?" she wails. I quiver backwards, shaking my head. "So, I raised an addict and a coward?" she jibes. "I should have you arrested." "It would be your word against mine," I bark. "I think I might be sick," she whispers to herself, backing away. I approach softly, but she raises both hands, building a wall between us. "Don't!" she shrieks. "You meth addict!" I won't be denigrated, not even by my maker. "I make $7 grand a week," I snap. "People answer to me. I'm a goddamn entrepreneur." An entrepreneur, just like Dad, I want to say, but don't. Her eyes begin to water. She takes a step back and starts tauntingly clapping. "Good for you, big man." This is the side of my mother she's worked tirelessly not to embody by surrounding herself with healers and gurus. I close my eyes and take a deep breath. "If I explain," I ask, "will you listen?" She closes her eyes and takes an even deeper breath. "I'll try. I'm a character," I explain, "in this story about addiction and community and about the intersection of sex and drugs and gay culture. I mean, it's about so much more that I've yet to even discover." "Oh my God," she cries. "You're a psychopath." She pokes my skull as if to check if anything remains inside. She knows I believe what I'm spouting. She's encouraged all my outlandish pursuits in the experimental arts. Her only viable play now is to jump into the director's chair. "You're the big boss," she says, "so you're important now. And you're the clandestine screenwriter," she adds, "so you'll be important later. But is it possible that between these roles you're playing, that you're also a scared and addicted little boy summoning any rationalization he can muster?" "All of that," I crow. "Yes, that's what makes the protagonist so compelling." "Right," she scowls, "because countless Oscars have been won from a cell or from 6 feet under the fucking ground." "Toni Collette could play you," I pitch. I did say that. Mom realizes that neither threat nor logic will work. She swivels away, stifled. "You can't tell Christopher," I whisper. "You owe me that. You said it yourself. You're scared for him. Well, this will destroy him." I know I'm exploiting an old mistake, where she disclosed to me when her plans to relieve my father all those years ago. That instance where complete honesty did more harm than good. It isn't fair, I know, and she confirms it. "This isn't fair," she moans, her back still turned. "I know," I reply, "but will you trust that I have a plan?" She turns, her eyes deride me. "You've given me no choice." As she plods away, I beg her not to worry, assuring her that us tweakers look out for one another like a family. How I've never experienced anything like it. Community is what I've been searching for my entire adult life. But as the words leave my lips, I wonder if I'm projecting a utopia onto a culture that in fact represents the antithesis of a unity, that maybe we're drawn to one another over shared traumas and a need to forget how we've always felt misplaced. A profusion of sex can easily be mistaken as love to anyone who's never learned the difference. Thank you.
You'll just have to buy the book to read the rest.
Yeah.
So let's open this up to questions from the audience.
Oh my. It's okay if there are none, but if you have them, throw them at me. I don't know why I'm looking right at you, but